barn door open?
Yep. It's recording right now.
It's turned up. Sound check.
Good morning.
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 Now, I want you to notice what Bill is doing up there. He's checking out what we have on the raffle table before the meeting starts.
You go fast.
That's a very smart thing to do, because that way, if your number gets called, you can just grab the thing that you want. Or, if you have no idea what any of the stuff is at the raffle table, you can ask someone ahead of time, so that when your number gets called, you can actually pick something that you might find useful. Okay, so with that said, and Bill is now seated, I'll say, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Welcome to meeting number 251 of PMG the Mac Group. This is our June meeting. I'm going to several times in the meeting remind you that we do not meet in July and August. So if you come here in July, I won't be here. If you come here in August, I won't be here. If you come here in September, I will be here.
You hope. We all hope.
Okay, I hope. God will. As always, God willing. All right, so as always, our tentative agenda, we start with our welcome. Mr. Kertner, do we have any new members or visitors today? No and no. Okay, so we don't have anyone to embarrass today. Say again?
Zilch.
Zilch.
I think it's
Okay.
Nada.
Nada. Neeks. None.
None.
Nothing. Okay. All right, so the next thing would be draft agenda, not for this year, for next year. So, again, just a reminder, July summer break, August summer break, September, I have a volunteer, Rick Cartwright, who's willing to talk about the Apple Watch in September. Okay. And he actually has an Apple Watch. Now, with that said, how many of you have an Apple Watch? How many of you have an iPod?
iPod?
Yes. Okay,
Maybe.
iPod. Okay, how many of you have an iPad? Okay. How many of you have a Mac computer of some sort? Okay.
iPhone.
So, Apple Watch, this is the start of what we call wearable computing. Wearable computing. So, in my case, it's not an Apple Watch, but a little thing called a Fitbit that I have on my wrist. You can always tell the people that are wearing Fitbits, they're wandering town and country or flower factory, and when you say, what are you looking for? They say, I'm just here for the steps. Yeah.
Can I just interrupt with a little Fitbit story?
Sure.
My daughter has one.
Okay.
We was up there visiting, going around various places.
Mhm.
She got back to the house,
Mhm.
it's gone.
Mhm.
She didn't have it. So she thought, well, she lost it here, there, there.
Mhm.
But finally, when she was in the house, she noticed that the Fitbit would link to her phone
Mhm.
at certain places. And so we did a little detective story until we finally zeroed in on where her Fitbit was by the fact that it would, it would only lock to her phone over a short range.
Mhm.
So we got within 20 feet or so of the Fitbit just by.
So it was lost in the house?
If you are
It was lost
interested in
a
one
box,
of
yeah,
these,
in her house.
what they call health watches, okay, with the Fitbit, the lower cost ones, it's got a flexible band and just two little knobs that punch in. It's very, very easy if you're wearing it tightly on your wrist for that to bounce out and then you lose it. If you wear it loose, which is how they recommend that you do it, they stay more secure. And so it's sort of like counterintuitive. Normally you strap stuff on tight to keep it on your body. With a Fitbit, you want to have it looser.
What functions does that perform?
This particular one, this is the Fitbit Charge. So it will measure, it'll do a pedometer function. It'll monitor my sleep function. I can put in how many calories I burned and how many calories I put in. Very easy. That's through the website when it syncs. How many steps? Actually, okay. How many steps? I've done 3,749 steps today. I walked 1.33 miles, 1,100 calories, and I've gone up 8 flights of stairs. And it's 10:06. The next level up, which is the Fitbit Charge HR, that also monitors your heart rate. Now, again, this is an Apple user group, so you're like, why is he talking about a Fitbit? Well, again, it's wearable technology, and one of the things the Apple Watch does now is it can monitor your heart rate. One of the things that Apple Watches conceivably could be doing in the future is linking to your pacemaker or to a implanted drug supply device. So, you know, folks that have diabetes, where they need to have the insulin, instead of having to measure, and then put in the insulin via injection, you could have a device that's linked to a wearable computer. It's measuring constantly what your sugar levels are and figuring out just how much dosage you need or don't need. You know, so there's some very interesting things you can do with wearable technology in terms of health technology. There's also some really scary stuff that comes down the line. Yes, you
You're just doing steps that are water pieces or nano like that.
yeah.
Nano.
Okay, so anyway, moving right ahead, okay, so draft program, this is all we have right now for next year's program, starting in September. These are some of the things, let me go, have them in the wrong order. These are some of the topics that I've already put up as possibles. Just keep in mind that when I put up possible topics, usually, you know, maybe 1 out of 10 topics actually makes it. But some of the possibles would be OS X 10.11, iOS 9, Linux on the Mac, G3, G4, or G5 if you have older, non-Intel, Apple computers and you still want to be able to do internet stuff with it.
Yeah.
Do a thing on iTunes, Pages, Keynote, or Numbers, Microsoft Office 365, LibreOffice, or anything else anybody wants to suggest. So, yes, Bill.
You know, I think it'd be neat. Many of our members have a lot of really neat things they know how to do, neat tricks or secrets. And if we, say every meeting or thereabout had maybe a 5-minute presentation by 3 people on some little thing that they are really excited about that they could share with us. You know, 5 minutes, that only take 15 minutes, and we get a lot of new ideas. We get more people involved in the presentations. I think that would be a great idea.
Okay.
I'd be willing to do one. You put me down. I'm not
And
sure
what
why.
kind of thing would you want to do?
Well, I don't know. There's so many things I do with my computer. I use them all about halfway, so I try to find something I'm at a high level on.
Okay, so I would call it, you know, tips and techniques or
Yeah,
how-tos.
just have a couple people share, and just you have 5 minutes. You can't go with it, otherwise, you know, we grab you.
Okay. Any other
Or you could do a meeting
main
where
presentation topics?
the presentation is, you know, like 10-minute slots or 15-minute slots of people doing things.
Okay.
Bill?
Another possibility would be the Internet of Things.
Okay, IoT, Internet of Things, which would be HomeKit, which is one of the things they
Right.
announced at the Worldwide
Security
Developers.
cameras, thermostats, refrigerators,
Uh,
computers.
Rain gauges, hooked to sprinkler systems, burglar alarms, being able to open a box when the UPS guy comes and you're at the Bellagio in Las Vegas and they're at your house in Beaver Creek.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think these are, I know some
Well,
people that,
I'm interested in what the the cons are as well. You know, you hear all the publicity about all the pros, all these things you can really do, these neat features, but there's always another side of the coin in terms of vulnerabilities and failure modes and all
Yes.
those kinds of things.
Well, a case in point, keyless entry for automobiles. Okay, well, it used to be in the beginning, your little remote key fob was using infrared to transmit to the car. And so people learned how to intercept that. I'm talking back in the Palm Pilot days. You know, some people cruising the parking lot with their Palm Pilot looking for somebody to open up their car, and oh, okay, they captured it. So then they could have their Palm Pilot open the person's car. So, you know, you have those sorts of cons that come. And of course, then they changed to a different type of technology using a Bluetooth technology to talk to the car instead. Bluetooth, of course, nobody could intercept Bluetooth. Okay, but anyway, Internet of Things, yes.
Along with that, I would classify home automation.
Okay.
Just a subcategory of that. Interfacing, things like that.
Okay, and when you say home automation, what do you mean?
Just any interface that would help control HVAC, lighting.
Okay, because to me, when I think home automation, I think, okay, I'm getting ready to leave from work. Pretend I'm still working full time. Okay, so you know, I'm not like going to do a regular commute. So I bring up my iPhone and I punch in a button and I tell the house that I'm heading home. So what it does is it starts to turn on the, let's pretend it's summer, turns on the air to make the temperature inside the house a little bit cooler. It checks the humidity of the garden so that if the tomato plants need some water, it'll start the sprinkler systems. Meanwhile, it's also checking what time, you know, sunset is so that the outdoor lights are supposed to go on automatically go on. And the video system, you know, the security system, you know, gives me its daily report of what the squirrels have been doing with the bird feed. Okay, but that's this kind of stuff that I think of as home automation.
We need to stop at the store and get milk.
Yeah. Again, that could potentially be a major downside of Internet of Things. Your refrigerator and your pantry are connected, and they know what their inventory levels are. So you decide to stop in and get a drink, just a cold drink. You're just going to quick in and out at Kroger's, get a cold drink, and as you get in there, your phone realizes you're at Kroger's, it talks to the refrigerator and the water, and they start feeding you, no, go down aisle 3 and pick up 3 boxes of pasta. Now go over to aisle 1. And your car is telling you, you know, I need an oil change, my air in my tires, and, you know, I could use some windshield wiper fluid.
And stop at the hair.
Same.
Aisle 7.
So these are the real world things to think about as you get into the Internet of Things. Yes. I'll go to Kathy.
Well, I'm just wondering on the effect of animals, your pets, when all this stuff starts working when you're not home. Are they going to freak out? Are you going to come home with a spaz cat or what?
Okay, well right now all I have are technically I have no animals.
That's the remote control laser.
Because Sebastian the Wonder Dog left this mortal coil last year. My daughter's turtles that I've been taking care of for 10 years. You know, they're really laid back. You know, they're turtles. They're cute. And the fish, they like that I sing to them, but other than that, I'm not the one who normally feeds them. The only ones that would freak out would be the birds, because we started feeding the birds this year, which is a euphemism for feeding the squirrels and the chipmunks, and the cats who come for some of the other stuff. But again, a possible downsize, you know, I'm thinking of a particular company that no longer exists, but it used to, and it was called Books & Co., and they had Merlin the cat there, etc. And I remember they were one of the first places where I saw a Roomba vacuum cleaner. And so this Roomba is working its way up the computer book aisle, you know, bouncing around the wood check. And there's Merlin the cat just sitting on the wood bench, staring at this thing. Going like, when can it pounce? Okay. Any other topic ideas?
Over here, over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought, you know, update on all the different things you can do with photos. I just been learning all about it on the iPad, but also what's the same in the iPad and what's different when you're working up on your computer. So the
Okay.
use of photos and the new
Yeah,
editing.
photos or
things and-
photo services, you know, because there's all these things like
Well, that might be
Yahoo,
added too.
Flickr, and then
that's a
there's
good
Google
idea.
Photos,
Yeah.
and there's
Shutterfly.
all of the
Shutterfly.
How about both of them?
Shutterfly.
Yeah, I think both of them do good. I've just learned so much about things that you know, all these odds and ends of holes in my knowledge about using photos on my iPad and on my computer.
Okay.
But I love your idea of all the other things too, the Shutter, the Flickr, and all that.
Okay. Actually, I find I get more benefit from the membership when they say, no, Bill, that's a really dumb idea. Why don't you just put it up? Yeah, Larry, you had,
How about, since we're getting the RFI chips on on your credit cards, maybe the pluses and minuses there a little? Because I know initially there was some bad stories that were going on.
the only real problem that I've seen with RFID chips have been when they put them in the passports.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that they weren't thinking straight on that one. Okay, which is one reason why when I travel, I have an RFID passport and it's in a shielded container. But the RFID chips coming into credit cards, instead of having the mag strip on the back of the credit card, you'll have a credit card that has a little computer chip on it, and you have to put the whole card in like this. You don't do this anymore. You do that. You pull it out.
That's not our
And
That's
it's the system they've been using in Europe for about 5-6 years.
It's got a chip, but it's not
Yeah.
radio. It's got contacts, doesn't it?
I don't know. I haven't gotten my hands on one yet. Let's see if I can connect it.
Is this one?
Okay.
If you want to see, I think this is one.
Yeah, you still have to insert it in and then you have to punch
do.
your pin.
But I just run it through the regular credit card things.
Yeah, so do I. It still has a strip on it, but
Yeah,
then I
well,
suppose.
that's one of the newer
Eventually,
ones.
it's going to
But
get
it didn't
hybrids.
work in one of those things people set up at an
Yeah.
auction. It wouldn't work in the real
Okay,
game.
so anyway, but the idea is new ways of doing credit cards. Okay, I'll just put that down. Because that would also fit into some of the stuff that Apple's doing with their Apple Pay system.
Yes.
Yeah, I just did with the, and you,
This might fit into one of the other things that have been mentioned, but we keep a number of computers active, and I'm very confused with all the messages that I get about this computer is now connected to this, or, you know, I will send you a number on your iPhone, and it seems like I get one that's active, and then if I'm shifting to another one, then it says, well, you're no longer on the iCloud here, so you have to redo.
Okay.
And I'm very confused with all the messages that come through with syncing, is it? Whatever is
Yeah,
the proper
I
word.
hear what you're saying, but there's another level on top of that,
Okay,
okay, which just drives me crazy,
okay.
all right? And that's the increased security that, okay, and I'm putting security air quotes around the word security, where Google will say, you just logged into your email account
Yes.
from device such and such.
Yes.
And then it sends you an email to your backup email account and your Gmail account telling you this. And you go like, yeah, I know. I just was sitting here in front of the computer and I logged in like I have all these other times.
Yes.
And if you want to be really secure, you need to put in your cell phone number. So part of that has nothing to do with security. It has to do with the federal government wanting to have a connection between cell phone numbers and email accounts. Okay? Because not everyone does their email from their cell phone. Okay, so it's all part of data collection that they're doing on us. Okay?
Isn't it also just a notification thing?
It's also a notification thing, but does it add any quality to your life?
Depends if you're the one who logged in.
you know.
Yeah.
So, with all of these things where it's security, think of a teeter-totter, balance, okay. Fine, you're going to send me 2 email messages every time I log in from any of my computers on this account, unless I put my cell phone number in, then you won't send me these things anymore. Okay, so it's like they're nagging me to get me to put in the cell phone number. Okay. So it all depends on why they're really doing it. Some of the things that Apple has done really has provided additional security and privacy to their users. The reason I know that is because you had the new Attorney General of the United States say that Tim Cook was promoting terrorism because he had appeared before the Electronic Freedom Foundation saying, we're not going to do this anymore unless they take us to court. In other words, we're not going to roll over and do certain things that they were doing before. Okay. Anyway, but that doesn't help us here too much because we need to get some more topics. Yes?
Maybe a general overview of security and privacy?
I like that. I don't think we've really done anything that was security and privacy.
I like that.
That's good, yeah.
Okay. And sometimes to be secure means that you're not private, and sometimes being private doesn't mean you're secure.
One of the e-books that we're giving away today has got that topic.
Okay. And that would be from Tidbits?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tidbits.com. They started, I want to say, in June of 1990. We started on the 4th of July in 1990, so they're also celebrating their 25th year of operation. Tidbits.com. The e-books that we put on the flash drives that we raffle off, that's from Tidbits. Joe Kissel and that whole crowd, Tonya and Adam Inks, very good people.
Yeah.
They really have done unbelievable amounts of good with educating people on their stuff so that they're able to do what they want to do without irritation and aggravation. So privacy and security would be an issue, a topic. How many of you have Apple TVs? Okay. We've never really done a thing about Apple TV, like the channels that are available on the Apple TV.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
So I'm thinking that would be a good topic for next year. Especially since they've got a newer one coming out, and it's supposed to be the hub for Internet of Things in your house. You know, I'm projecting what I think it is. Well, think about it. Right now, you've got, let's say, you've got a security system, so there's a computer that's doing the security system. Maybe you have an electronic light system in the house, you've got another computer that's doing that. You've got your furnace, air conditioner, there's a computer that's doing that. You've got computers in your cars that also control how they talk to your cell phones, because you really shouldn't be doing a cell phone call. You ought to do it hands-free, right? So you've got all these computers managing stuff. Well, what if you had a hub that could control all this? So when the power goes out, you don't have to go put the new time on the TV or on the microwave or on the oven or the clock radio or the refrigerator. You know, think of all the things that have got clocks now. Instead, they just go, oh, power was out, we need to reset. Okay, where are we? Oh, we're outside of Dayton, Ohio. Okay, time should be this. Okay, everybody, time set. Sort of like when you take your cell phone out of state, you don't have to change the time on it. It sort of knows that you're in that part of Indiana that where time never changes. Okay, so Apple TV might be a good topic. Okay. Setup or how to use it?
Both.
Oh, because that's really two different topics.
And maybe the alternatives, versus Roku and some of those other kind of players.
Okay.
I'd like to know what more I can do if I got the Apple instead of using a Blu-ray player.
Okay.
Okay. I'd like to access my internet on that.
The new music thing that Apple's going to bring out.
I'm holding off. One of the things that Apple announced at the Worldwide Developer Conference is a thing called Apple Music, where for $10 a month, you can have all of this music come to your various devices. I'm waiting to see a little bit more about how they roll that out. I tend to be, for topics, I like to wait a little while to see what they actually do. You know, if you remember when they came out with the Apple Watch, first thing everybody said is, oh, do a thing on the Apple Watch. And I was like, no, let's wait a little bit. Typically, I'll wait until they come out with the second version of the operating system for the device, or the second major release of the device. But now that we have somebody in the club who has one and who volunteered, any other things that you can think of in terms of stuff you do where you go, you know, I don't really understand what I'm doing with this?
That's a Pandora's box.
Yeah, really.
Well, maybe just dealing with your video in terms of, you know, organizing it. And I mean, I've got to get all my videotapes and stuff on the digital form.
Okay.
Just that whole collection.
What if we made the topic more generic to, what do I do with my 8-track tapes, my cassette tapes, my vinyl records, my VHS tapes?
Archiving old stuff.
Yeah, yeah, archiving old stuff.
It's called Goodwill.
Well, no, it's more the thing of, you know, what do you donate, what do you keep, why do you keep it, and what do you transform into a newer digital format so that you've got it for later on?
And if I transform it, do I need to keep the original to be legal?
Yeah. Okay. So
Why don't we
that
talk
would be-
about Google services?
Ooh, Google services. Okay. And again, you know, we're just doing brainstorming here. Anybody else? Looking at you two, you're one of our newest sets of members, so you would, what is sort of stuff do you have problems with that you get confused about, or you got it all mapped out?
You're just here to help us.
What about
Scanners or
programs
printers?
that come with your Macintosh computers, like iMovie, the I/O programs, iMovie, iTunes, iBooks, all that kind of stuff. You know, is a filler? Okay, is it possible? All right, so anyway, so I've gotten some stuff there. Let me go back just a minute here. So we've already done one of these, which is future presentations, and you've given me some good ideas, good starting points. Are you open to me sort of like sending out a president's email maybe in August, maybe in July? It all depends on how motivated I get. Because I'm talking about my camping trip that I was thinking was a bad idea. Anyway, where I sort of say, okay, this is the list of what we were talking about, and I'll flesh them out a little bit, so like you've got an executive summary of what each topic would be, and then you tear them apart mercilessly, and maybe give me some feedback.
Or how people rank them, what they most important.
Okay, that would be cool. It's like, you know, pick 3 that you would actually care about.
Are you willing to meet?
Or 1 that you would care about.
Are you willing to meet every week so we can get through the whole list?
We can do this with email, I think, quite nicely. Okay.
No, the presentations.
You get more
It's gonna be more than
presentations
10
than you got
copies.
mine.
Okay. So anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in that you agreed it was okay for me to bother you during the summer break.
Yeah,
Okay.
fine, yeah.
Another thing I want to just briefly talk about is hardware. This is not selecting information from you, but just providing information. We've been working with the church, and you'll notice we have more of the long tables back. Okay, so there's been some good results of that. I had a conversation with Don Bennett. He's decided he's not going to lend out the big screen anymore to other churches because it keeps coming back with parts missing. And then 2 other things. We may be purchasing another projector screen to replace this, because it all depends on, you know, I want something that's nice and reliable, that gives a good result, and this thing is like falling apart, and it's not that old. And then the other thing, just to let you know that it's in work, would be a wireless mic system, where we would have some speakers located in the back, and I'd be, or the presenter would be mic'd.
Yes.
You know, so that, you know, I'd be like, I'm trying to, who's the power to be the best you can be? Tony, you know, I could be that dynamic motivational speaker that, you know, Wayne Dyer, you know, except not as tall and thin. Okay. All right, so just so you know that we heard you about the audio stuff that we need to do. So that's in progress. Then last but not least, this one I need feedback on. We're not going to have a novice group today because for the last 3 months when we had novice group, nobody came. Okay. So when nobody comes, that tells me we're not meeting a need that's there anymore. So what I want you to do is to either vocalize your thoughts now or over the summer to me about what you would like to see us do with that other little venue that we have, that space that we have. And I already got somebody to raise their hand.
I've noticed that with the novice group, if the main presentation is really focused on something that's really technical, that most people generally don't know about or are interested in, more people over here. If you keep the main presentation more mainstream, as I said in my email, there's a lot more participation here and less for the novice group, because that's what they do over, what we do in the novice group is talk about more mainstream topics.
Yeah. So if I keep it esoteric with the main topic, where people go like, what the heck is that?
Yeah, that's the point.
Then you'll
yeah, because you know, some of the topics we've had in the past, I would say probably half the people don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
So one of the things I would throw out as a possible is at the same time that I've noticed that we've got a declining participation in the novice group, I notice more and more people are contacting me just before the meeting or at the meeting saying, hey, you know, my MacBook or this isn't quite working right, you know, can you take a look at it during the break?
You know, 1 or 2 meetings during the year, the season, just have a complete main presentation on help desk.
Yeah.
You know, because that's what we do over there, is answer those individual questions that don't take but maybe 5 minutes.
But what I'm thinking is if we do one that's a help desk, but it's more of a hands-on help desk.
That could be, yeah.
Where we actually have, okay, we say, Hap, bring in your blah, blah, blah device, and we'll defrag it, and we'll show people how you defrag it, and have a table over there where it's, how do you defrag these things? Table over there, how do I get adware off of a Mac? Table over there, how do you put more RAM in a computer?
Write that down. That's
Table over, okay. So anyway,
help desk.
but the idea would be that it's more of a workshop type environment. Instead of you sitting at the tables, you'd be wandering the little tables.
That one meeting you were ill 2 or 3 months ago, and we just sat around and talked about odds and ends stuff and just question and answer period. That worked really well. Everybody
my
seemed to
feelings were really
It wasn't.
People said, you know,
we weren't doing it.
you should stay home next month.
No. My point is, when you're here, maybe do that kind of format.
Yeah. So maybe we should do one of those with hands-on also, like once a year?
Yeah, at least.
Okay, so what would you call that?
It'd be like a science fair, but
About hands-on, something else.
Help desk fair? Partner fair?
Extended help desk.
Because clearly there's people who are much more adept at Apple stuff who can serve as resources.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, you can point them out in the room where, you know, you really have more expertise than most of us do. And you might take it for granted that we know that stuff, but we don't.
Or have it in a situation if somebody's got a problem, one of us can go over and actually work one-on-one like that while you're having a discussion, go off to the side somewhere. And
Now, if we had that, would it make sense for us to have sort of a little troubleshooting kit that we always have available, so that we've always got, you know, the flash drives with the bootable operating systems, with the In other words, we have sort of a,
That's why I carry my black
yeah,
bag.
I know, but the thing is,
Because you never know when you're gonna need it here.
yeah, but the idea is, if you're not here, we make it part of the standard meeting
Yeah.
stuff that's here. So it's like having the defibrillators and
I'd
the
like
school
to-
different restaurants.
Bill, I'd like to know what's in his black bag.
Ooh, there's an idea. No, I'm saying it's for our topic.
Oh.
Okay, Bill and Mark and Chuck and Don, if he's here, or the other Don, we could compare notes about what we have in our little troubleshooting.
Yeah.
I have a stethoscope in mine. You have a stethoscope in mine.
No, I just pick it up and listen.
Okay.
Well,
Bill,
not only what you guys
Yeah.
have in your black
Okay, wait.
bag.
Okay, let me go to the back first.
Just expanding on what we've been talking about here a little bit, maybe you need to change the name of the novice group entirely to something more descriptive.
Just
Maybe
call it
the
that.
idea that calling it a novice may scare people off that say, hey, I've been using a computer for 10 years. I don't want to go act like I'm a newcomer just because I want to learn about something that I don't happen to know. But I like the idea of maybe converting it to something more like the workshop type thing, since it sounds like, or extended help desk, some sort of combination
So
along
it'd be
that line.
like TMG workshop, as
Yeah,
opposed to
something like that.
Clinic.
Because clinic makes you feel like,
Good.
there's something wrong with you, you need tweaking.
Yeah, workshop doesn't have the implications necessarily something wrong.
Okay. Yes, Larry?
In one of the other clubs I was in, to give you an idea how this workshop works, or what they did one year is they took before, well in advance of tax time, but when like tax cut and whatever the one, so there were maybe 3 options, and they actually had 3 stations, and you could, in 15 minutes, they show you an overview of how each of those worked and how much it cost and what the downfalls were. And what you got to do, see, is you got to find people that use those. You know, we have,
Okay, so let me take your idea and let me sort of...
and so you can do that with other things too.
What would you think about, in that other room over there, what we have is, let's say, 1 month we're doing web browsers, and we've got 4 machines set up, and each one's got a different web browser on it. And another month we're doing tax software, so each machine's got a different tax program, so you can see what they all look like and sort of get a feel for it. Or different, well, spreadsheets you really only have, maybe, oh no, you've got 3 or 4, because you've got LibreOffice and OpenOffice, and you have numbers, and you've got Microsoft Excel. But the idea is you pick a type of software, and then you show a couple different programs that are emblematic of that archetype. You like it? Okay.
How big a screen would you have to have for a group like that? I mean, would it be just a laptop screen looking at it with 3 or 4 people looking at it, or would we have to go back to a small projector?
You know, these Pico projectors have gotten to be so inexpensive that, you could almost have, since that's got a white brick wall in there, you could just have a little Pico projector hooked up to each one, and it's just projecting onto the wall. By the way, I was at a Microsoft Intel trade show recently and saw a very interesting product. It was from Siemens. It's a German company.
Right.
And it's a thing about the size of an iPhone, okay? And you set it up on the ledge of the desk, and it projects with light the keyboard onto the surface of the desk, and then it projects onto the wall behind the desk, so that you've got this thing the size of an iPhone, and you've got the keyboard and the big screen all in one, and it fits in your pocket. Yeah, it was all future technologies.
I was going to say, what's the technology that allows for?
Yeah, but I tried the keyboard. The keyboard part was working. The problem they had was the strength of the projection, because they really want to do some sort of holographic thing in the air where you can move your hands through it. I was like, no. Okay, topic idea or something else?
No, about the novice group.
Okay.
You have people that come and because they're just getting into a Mac, they're beginners, and they want to know more what they can do and so forth.
Mhm.
We had friends that joined for that purpose, and the novice group was still above them. Are we, is part of our purpose to help beginners, how to get going and so forth and using it? Well, I think we've lost some people that way.
Okay. I like this idea, but I'm thinking it doesn't just apply to what we call as newbies. It also applies to everybody in this room. Because there's all this stuff you can do with a Mac, but we tend to focus just on our narrow little thing. So it might be a good idea to have a dog and pony show. These are things that you can do with a Mac and just womp on through them. You know?
I'm thinking that question and answer might be an approach.
I do too.
Somebody doesn't
That
know.
help desk idea is a good idea, because if you could have like one-on-ones like you're talking about, I think that would be very helpful there.
But I think we've lost some of the people that have come, you know.
No, but
they
I'm
were
saying maybe
interested
you have,
because it's too far
Right.
to answer them. They just need the basics.
maybe
of how
you
they
need
get started.
stations in there and you have a one-on-one just for that hour.
One of the things, Bill, that I
Okay, wait, let me
was,
go to
sorry.
all the way to the back. You had Ken? No? Go ahead.
Thinking about the camera over here, if some of those, and her comments, if some of those sessions were recorded, and I don't know whether you record the novice group or not, but if we made some recordings of short things like how do you start up your Mac, how do you get this going, you know, some of the kinds of questions maybe, and then build a library of frequently asked questions that people can consult that way might be a service we can follow.
Let me add something to that. Okay, one of the other organizations that I'm doing stuff with is MVCC, the Miami Valley Communications Council. And I've already talked with them about doing a 30-minute TV show every week on topics. And, you know, I was like, if I had the topics coming from the members, and I do a 30 thing, how do you start up your Mac? How do you shut down your Mac? Okay, you know, boom. We have it go out on the community channel on cable, but we also have it available, you know, from our YouTube channel. You know, that would be a way where these little topics where you go like, well, yeah, you know, it's really important to know how to do that, but you can't do a 45-minute PowerPoint on that. It's this sort of thing like, you know, if you want to do maintenance on your Mac, once or twice a year, when you start up the Mac, hold down the Shift key and let it come up in safe boot, and then restart it, and you just did all sorts of wonderful maintenance on your Mac, and you didn't know that before. I'm seeing people going like, I didn't know that, yeah. So it'd be those kinds of things. Okay. How many people do we have here in the group who actually consider themselves to be beginners with Apple stuff? We all should raise our hands.
How beginner?
I have to say,
Which stuff?
You could own a Mac for a year and still be a beginner, you know?
The way I define beginner is I say, what do you have? And they go, I don't know, I'm not sure. All I know is I can do this and
Yeah. But there's different ways to define beginner. There's beginners from the hardware standpoint, they've never seen a Mac product before. And there are beginners from a software standpoint, which I would classify myself as a beginner with Photos, for example, or with a lot of other software packages that I've never used. So it kind of has to be careful.
Not a beginner in usage, but if I need to do something underneath the usage, I'm afraid to give a key.
Yes.
Every time I get a device, I'm a new device. If I go to a MacBook to an iPad.
All right, so at this point, I'm going to let you give me the last comment, and then I'm going to make a closing comment, and then we're going to get back to doing other stuff. Okay.
Well, in reference to the novices, the beginners who have maybe been lost, one of the important things that I think would help, and I think all of us are at some stage of being able to do this, being available, if you could hook someone up that was a beginner with another member of the group. I mean, I'd be glad to share my ignorance with anyone. And there are certain things I can do, and I'm pretty good at it. And I'm pretty good at explaining things to people who don't have any idea what I'm talking about when I start. But there are times that I get, someone says, oh, here's how you do something. And I have to say, wait a minute, go back and do that again. It's perfectly clear after you do it once, but the explanation of how you do it that you read or something else is not clear. It's not as intuitive as Max would like us to think.
Which is why if we're using that other venue for hands-on stuff, then you get the muscle memory. And it sounds strange, but sometimes if you just put your hands on the keys and have them walk you through something once or twice, all of a sudden it clicks and you remember it.
That's important because you can show somebody on the screen how to do it. Sitting them down and telling them how to do it is how they learn. Watching it is not going to.
You're using both
Plus,
channels.
plus it's fun to tell people what to do and they actually have to do it. It makes you feel like you've got control. Okay, so anyway, so let me just do a little bit of a closure here. So I tricked you into thinking we were talking about future presentations. What I was actually trying to get you to do is to tell me what you need. What you need. Because that's what this organization is about. Okay, besides that stuff. Okay, not gonna go. Because that's what a user group is about. If a user group is not providing you with what you need, then why do we do it? Okay. So thank you. You've given me a whole bunch of really good things. Now we're going to go real quick. Real quick. No, it would be nice to just say, yeah, okay, we're done. Okay. News. Worldwide Developer Conference, they announced all sorts of wonderful stuff, but it's all in the future, and I'm not going to worry about it until they actually put it. You want?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I use the Notebook, which is one of the vendors that is listed on our TMG site. And the Notebook tutorials are just excellent. They're worth the money. You can get some free startup, but I paid the membership price per year, and it's really worth it.
Yeah. So that's Noteboom. We don't have internet today.
Boom.
Noteboom. Excuse me. We don't have internet today, so I can't show you the website. And it's Janet Bourne, who just said, actually she told me 5 stars. She said they were really good.
Really, really good. I just ran it just to learn all about photos on my iPad because I had so many holes in my knowledge, and it was great.
So it's just tutorials about different Mac.
Yeah, it's all Mac products, all Apple products, I should say.
Another really, really good resource if you're into any of the Adobe products is you go to the Adobe website and they have all of these free tutorials that are up there. I mean, it's just amazing the amount of stuff that's there. Another one that I like very much, they just got bought out, and that's lynda.com. Lynda.com. Again, really, really good tutorials, not just Apple stuff, a whole range of stuff. And Bill, did you have something that you had?
Yeah, there's Other World Computing. It's at maxsales.com, I think is the address. About hardware, they have YouTube videos on how to do almost anything to replace a hard drive, change your RAM. I'd never swapped out a keyboard on a MacBook before. I went there. They showed me how to do it, all 17 screws, just to end. But it's very, very concise, and if you just sit there and watch it, do it along with them, pause it. There's a lot of stuff you can do with your own hardware with these videos, so it's a good place to go.
And it's
called Other World Computing, but I believe their web address is called maxsales.com.
That's correct. Yeah.
Otherworldcomputing.com works too. SALES.
So their OWC is their 3-letter.
So if you need to upgrade a hard drive or buy some new RAM, you can go there and buy it from them, and then they've got the videos to show you how to do it.
Yeah, again, if you're into fix it yourself, Another excellent resource is ifixit.com, ifixit.com. They sell you tools, they have take-aparts, they buy brand new Apple products and take them apart just to show you why you shouldn't try and fix it. And they give them a rating as to how fixable it actually is. And they also sell parts. I mean, it's just, and they don't just do computers. It's like, oh, if I have this kind of washing machine, they'll have sometimes a take apart, yeah, because they're expanding into other stuff. Yes, Jim?
You're overlooking a free resource. Apple has a good support system where if you go ask questions, it'll take you to a page that tells you how to do what has happened and so forth, if you can ask the right questions.
I hear what you're saying, and I used to rely upon the Apple support site tremendously. They have constricted it down, so it's becoming more and more difficult to get a decent answer from them.
Yeah.
You have to know exactly how to phrase the question to get, yeah. In the same way, they're making it more and more difficult for me to be able to download an update as opposed to going through the App Store or whatever. It makes it problematic. And their tutorials suck. I mean, they are so banal, trite, it's the lowest, it's common denominator possible, that it really, really, it just gets me very, very upset. So anyway, but again, it's a good starting point. Always it's a good starting point. It's just they could be doing so much better. When you compare the quality of the hardware and the software to the quality of the support website, you feel like, really? You know, this thing's like something that, you know, Best Buy would have put together. Okay, I know, I'm over the top on that one. All right. So anyway, anybody else have any other news items that they want to share with the members? Okay, so we're done with news. Anybody have items for sale or wanted? Yes?
I've got with me today a 1200 watt line conditioner. Has 4 plugged outlets on the back. It's not a UPS, but it will do short-term brownouts and spikes. It serves as a surge protector as well. So looking to get $50, so that's
okay.
Right.
And that's Dan Wyckoff over there with a power conditioner for $50 for Best Off. Okay. Yes, Phil.
You have some free software mainly for OS 9, but there's a few for early OS X on the donut table over there. Please take anything you might be able to use.
Okay. Okay. Are you taking the remains with you if they don't take it?
I'll take it unless somebody else wants it. You want it?
I'll recycle it, put it through the other. And
good.
I've got this new project I'm working on.
Good.
I need CDs for it. I need like about 20 foot of CDs so I can put them on this LED light. And, yeah.
You're looking for, I guess, otherwise worthless CDs?
Yeah, yeah. And then the ones that are cracked that I can't use, I know how to recycle those. There's a place where you just can send CDs and they recycle
I
them.
have 1,000 of the early, what was that?
AOL?
AOL, yeah.
Those are, okay, wait a minute. AOL CDs and discs are collector items.
I have 1,000.
You could have, it would be like having Matchbox cars.
Really?
You could fund your retirement. That's the line they gave me when I was in the Lego store at the Mall of America. They were like, oh, if you got old Lego sets, you could fund your retirement. And they told me about some couple that they met, and they were both Lego collectors, and they decided they didn't need to have 3 of the same thing, and they sold them off, and they bought this cabin and
Building Legos.
Okay. So anybody else good for sale or wanted? Nope. Okay. Do we have enough time for help desk? We got just real quick. We'll do 2 real quick because I got Hap here and like I owe them from way back when. So.
10 to 12-year-old Nano, all of a sudden the car doesn't recognize it, the computer doesn't recognize it. Is there anything I can do? It's still playing. I don't know Why doesn't it recognize?
Doesn't charge.
Oh, yeah.
Still charges.
Have you
Can
checked your
just try
cords?
swapping out cables on it?
Haven't done that yet.
Try swapping out
Well,
cables, because it could be that 30-pin connector.
Yeah, that's
Some of
what I'm
those
thinking,
pins
too.
may not be.
That's what I wondered.
Okay, so that's where I would start.
All right,
Okay,
thanks.
yeah.
I keep, on some side, as my computer comes on, I sometimes get this message that's asking me to allow or block. And it says the computer, and it's got
Yeah.
a numerical thing. It's attempting to access Discovery D on this computer. Sometimes it's got like 405 and sometimes it's FB, 2 colons and another 2 numbers. I don't, and I just wait till it disappears because I don't know whether to allow it or block it. Permanently, I have
Okay,
no
and
idea.
this is an iMac?
The iMac.
iMac, and you're running which operating system on
Yosemite.
the Yosemite?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, it sounds to me like some of your startup, when it starts up, it doesn't always talk to all the pieces it needs to talk to.
Okay.
Okay, so what I want you to do is this. Okay, first thing, write it down, homework assignment. When you get home, you're going to start up the computer and you're going to hold down the shift key on your keyboard. You're going to let it come up fully. It'll come up in safe mode, safe boot, and then you're going to restart it. Okay, that has it rebuild all your symbolic links, and it cleans out a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay.
Then the next thing you're going to do, after you've done that, is you're going to go into your applications folder.
Oh boy.
Okay. You've got a whole reporter's notebook in front of you, Cap.
Okay.
You've got a Sparko in front of you. What are you writing on your receipt for?
Application.
Okay. Inside the applications folder, there's a folder called utilities.
Okay.
So you go in there,
Okay.
and there's a thing called disk utility.
And just run that.
You open up disk utility, and you're going to run repair permissions.
Okay.
So you're doing the first aid function of disk utility.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, in El Capitan, the operating system coming down the pike, they've changed disk utility all sorts of different ways. Oh yeah. Yeah, and I'm still figuring out what they did. Okay.
Bill, did that sound like an MAC address that it's trying to attach to?
Or an IP6. Yeah. But I figured, let's walk through the flow chart. And, Cap, do one other thing. At the break, just talk to Bill Howe for a little bit. Just email back and forth. Okay. Okay. He's got Clydesdales. Okay. You need to meet Bill. He's okay. Yes, Rob.
Did you say hold down the shift key when you turn it on?
Yeah.
Is that just as simple as what you said? Just
Yeah.
push it down and push
Yeah.
the button on the back
And,
and let it go?
and it comes up, and you'll see this thermometer bar that goes across.
How long do you hold it though?
I hold it until it's finished
Okay.
booting.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I let go.
And it takes a while.
Yeah, yeah. And then when you restart it, it'll take a lot longer to restart than it does normally because it's rebuilding all these symbolic things. Yeah. By the way, you still owe me a lunch.
I know.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to say we're done with help desk and we're going to wrap up.
Does everybody have a wrap?
Come to order, please.
Thanks for the help. Yeah, it is tough, as long as it doesn't phone up and flare. No, you're doing it. Thank you.
Please find your signals. Okay. So, just to bring bring you back to where we left off. I feel like I'm watching Flash Gordon in the 1930s. When we last left, Dale and Dr. Zarkov were being held by Princess Leia. Okay. What we were doing last month was we were looking at a program. It's a new free program from Apple. It was part of that last update to Mac Yosemite. So that we're talking about Macintosh computers. We're not talking about the mobile devices. And that program is called Photos for OS X. So if you're somebody who has an Apple mobile device, which would be an iPhone, an iPad, they have a program on it already called Photos. And it's for looking at photos, organizing your photos, and editing your photos. On the mobile devices, we use the camera app to take the photos. Well, it's all part of this. We want to make the two platforms be closer together in terms of how things work. What's called interface, the graphic user interface. So that's the icon for this new photo app. The idea is it's eventually going to replace iPhoto, the program. Okay. And the question that I posed to everyone last month was, do I switch from iPhoto to Photos or not? And the answer was, if you're currently using Aperture, which is Apple's professional photography program, or you really know your way around iPhoto, stick with those programs for right now. But be aware that within another 2 years, 18 months, those programs are going to go away. Aperture already is no longer being sold. Okay. The other thing to remind you is that last month, as part of our email to you, you received some documents. One of them was an electronic book called The Missing Manual for Photos for OS X.
Now, they only got part of that, right? They didn't get the whole...
They didn't get the whole thing on Yosemite, because this Photos for OS X, it's part of the Missing Manual for Yosemite. So they only got the stuff on Photos, the program. So when I left off last month, we were up to about, so we're up to where it says page 10. So just make a notation. You've got these PDFs already at home. We're starting at where it says page 10, editing photos. So that's where we pretty much left off. So let me just move up here a little bit. And we talked about why you shouldn't turn on iCloud Photo Library. That was don't. And then we'd gotten up to here, and then I was starting to do the demonstration, and true to form, I talked too much, didn't show enough, so I ran out of time. So what I'm going to do at this point is say first, were there any questions that you had left from last month? And if not, then I'm going to start in with some of the things, the highlights of what you need to know about the program. So I'm looking out there, everybody's quiescent. Okay. Yes, Dan?
Is that manual still on your website? You download it from there?
Do you want to send the manuals back out again, the missing manual? Because it would have been in the email you got last month. Okay. From the
I'll send that out again.
Do you have a flash drive on you?
No.
Okay. Yeah, you got to start carrying a flash drive. A homework assignment, put it down, start carrying flash drive.
It's efficient. It's we call them geek whistles. Because you hang them around your neck and.
So I got, here's my geek whistle, and then I got the one. Now, since I used to work for this guy, way back when. So I got one to do real quick here.
They're cheap.
Here, use this one and give it to him.
No, I was going to give him.
What I'm saying is, if you need it, I got one with me.
Well, I got one right here. It's my
oh, okay.
Thank you,
I
Larry.
don't need one here. Thank
See,
you.
this is why I enjoy doing this, because all I meet are people who are being helpful. You're here because you want to learn, or you want to share the stuff you know, and that's just so very rare in the world today. And let's see, what do we got here? Yeah, let's just do this real quick. Okay.
I didn't download it.
So now, let's do this.
I know, I probably got it somewhere. The email.
Okay. So let's do this. Apple E.
Send the link, yeah.
Okay. Now, they also call these flash drives. They call them flash drives not because they're fast, but because they've got a little light that flashes. Okay? Never, never, never pull it out when the light's flashing. You wait till it finishes, and that means they finished their stuff.
It's mounted.
So on this, you'll notice I've got a return address label on it, so you know that it belongs to me.
That's good.
Okay.
How about back today?
So if you plug that into your Mac at home, it's going to show up, and then you just pull what you want. And you know, I know where you live, you know where I live. Bring it next September or not, you know, okay? But then, you know, I'll still remember you got it. And it'll
Still on the roadie.
Okay. So now I'm going to quit out of PowerPoint, and we're just going to be here in Photos. I'm going to sit down, and we're going to go back to plain vanilla photos here. Okay, so when you start up,
You move right just to get there, you're blocking the screen.
do I have?
Good.
You're blocking-
You're okay now.
Okay.
Whoops.
Just stay that way.
Well,
Little bit.
Slide to your right, Bill.
Here in the middle.
There, that's good.
There you go. Sorry, Neil.
All right, one more reason for me to work on weight reduction. Okay, so anyway, so for those of you who are used to iPhoto, you launch Photos, and it's using the same photo library that iPhotos does. Okay. And you see this, and let's say you don't have an iPhone, you don't have an iPad, you're not used to this program on those mobile devices, and you go like, what did they do to us? All right, so the first thing you would do is go up to your View menu and tell it to Show Sidebar. Ah, now it's starting to look like the iPhoto we knew, where I can click on my photos, and I also have albums, and I have projects, sort of like what we're used to. Then the next thing would be, in this case, click on All Photos. So just some of the little things that you probably ought to know. And let's click on one of these guys here. I'm just going to open up a photo here. As I opened up that photo, I had a new thing show up on my toolbar up here. This is called Split View. So in the sidebar, I've clicked on a thing called Demo Photos. If I double click it, it thinks I want to change the name of it. As I click on the photo and then double click on the photo, I get a new item. And that's the split view. When I click on that, it's going to show me in this other little bar a thumbnail of all the photos that are in that album, and the main one is here. So I can quickly switch between photos by just clicking on those different. So let me just real quick go back into System Preferences. I'm going to make my arrow a little bit bigger. So now I've got a big arrow. Okay, so we're over here clicking on these things. So just be aware that you've got the split view, which is only available to you when you have a photo actually open, and you got the sidebar.
Do you still recommend making a duplicate so it mess things up really bad like you got the original?
Okay. What I recommend is, if you're going to stick with iPhoto, just stay with iPhoto. If you start using iPhoto and Photos at the same time, those libraries will end up being out of sync.
Right.
Even though they're all the same virtual library. Okay. Does that sort of answer the question?
No, my question was about staying original.
When you edit it.
Oh.
You edited it.
Both Photos and iPhoto always keep the original photograph. So it's non-destructive editing. In other words, you can always go back to the original. The only way you can lose it is if you export it and then you bring it back in. And if you export it, delete it from the library, and then bring it back into the library. When you bring it back in, it's bringing the last edit of the photograph. Okay? To get that split screen, it's this little button right up here. And it only shows up if you're in you actually have a photograph open. So here, see, as I open that photograph, then I get this new little button that's next to the slider. The slider here allows you to magnify the picture, increase your resolution so you can do fine editing. You don't have the capability that you had in iPhoto, where you could take it up to 800%. Photos, you can only take it up to 200%. All right, so anyway, let's get into editing tools. The marketing blurb from Apple basically will tell you that the photos for OS X editing tools are far superior to anything that you're going to find in iPhoto or Aperture. They are wrong. Okay. They have made them much simpler, but you don't have the range of options that you had in Aperture or in iPhoto. So just be aware of that. Also be aware that ivory soap time, 99 and 9400% of the time, you don't need all of that power. Most of the time, what are we doing with photographs? We're rotating them, and we're cropping them, and we're maybe changing the contrast and the brightness. That's about it. Okay. For that sort of stuff, Photos does very nicely.
What about red eye?
Yeah. So anyway, so what I've done is I've created some albums over here, and each album is set up to with photos that need to be enhanced, edited by a particular tool. All right, so I'm going to take this one first. So, I'm going to use the hammer and not my remote control because I shut the projector off 4 months ago. All right, so this is split view, this is sidebar. I've opened up an album, and it's only got photos that need to be enhanced. Yes, Stan? Say it again.
How do you kill the metadata?
How do you kill the metadata? You want to see it or you want to kill it? Good luck with that. The federal government wants as much information about photos that are stored on the internet as possible. They want as much metadata as possible. If you take a picture with an iPhone, it's going to geotag that. Okay.
That's what Armband said.
You could export it and use something like, there are some metadata editors, but normal people are not going to get access to that. Okay, anyway, I'm going to go through edit tools. All right, so we've got a photo up. It's one of these photos. This is the stuff that's in the enhanced album. When this comes up, we've got these little buttons up here. So the first one is a little heart shape. That's if you want to say it's a favorite. Okay, you click it, it's either a favorite or it's not. Next one, circle with a letter I in it. Information. Your information block will come up. It'll tell you some stuff about the photograph. Next to that is a plus. That's if you want to add that photograph to a project or to an album, or you want to do something else with it. The next one to it is your share icon. It's a rectangle with an arrow coming up, and that's if you want to put this photograph on Facebook or Twitter, or you want to email it to somebody. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do there. And last but not least, edit. So last month, I walked through these guys and we didn't get to edit. This month, we're going to get through edit. So I click on edit. And let me make it full. Let's make it a little bit bigger here. Just get the dock down so it's out of the way. I'm not in full screen mode because I want to still have the toolbar and that stuff. All right, so I clicked on the edit button. My wraparound for the picture gets black. So you don't have any color variations going on. Because remember, in Yosemite, they play all these graphics tricks where the desktop picture will bleed through the windows. Okay, well, when you're editing photos, you don't want that. So it becomes completely black. These are your edit tools: enhance, rotate, crop, filters, adjust, and retouch. Let's see what enhance does. This is the one that I use the most often. It's the fix it. Just you, computer, do what you think is the best thing to this photograph. So now I'm bringing my pointer and I'm clicking on the enhance tool. And it just did it. Okay, now, if I press the letter M, as in mother, it shows me what the photograph looked like before I enhanced it. If I let go of the letter M, it shows me what the enhance tool did to it. In this upper left-hand corner, we have a button that says revert to original. Okay, that's if you've done a whole bunch of different things to it and you go like, what was I thinking? Just take it back to the beginning. That's the button you would click. If you like what you did, you click the yellow button that says done. All right, now.
You enhance it a second time.
That was a capability you had in the iPhoto. In Photos, no, it enhances it or it's not enhanced, so it's a toggle. So, think workflow. Typically, when you're editing photos, you're not just editing one photo. You got a whole album of stuff. You were on a trip, you got a whole bunch of pictures from the trip. You want to walk through them, throw away 80% of them, and then just keep the ones that are really good, and then fix those up. So instead of me having to go back to photos, select the next photo, because I've got split view turned on, I can just click on the next photo in my split view, and I can now edit that. So here we have an airline, and we're going to click Enhance. And let's go over here. We've got some dancers. I'm going to hit Enhance. And now we've got the little girl. I hit Enhance.
Can you do a batch?
Batch operations in photos for OS X are problematic.
Okay.
Whether you're talking about, batch change of date and time or batch change of location and such, you just can't do batch changes the way that you can in iPhoto and in Aperture. In Aperture, you can have workflows set up where you just say, take this folder of photographs, I want you to correct the color gradient so it's appropriate for our web presses over at the Dayton Daily News, okay, or the TV guide. Photos, no.
Okay.
Okay, so let's pick another one. See, this one's a little bit too dark. Okay, so it did a nice job with it. Let's take this one. Here's Gary Gyrax, the fellow that invented Dungeons and Dragons. That's in his house in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And here I'm going to do one more here. And then one more. That's my daughter out ice fishing. Okay, so the enhanced tool. Not really that much different from iPhoto, except you don't have that ability to step up layers. In iPhoto, you could have, you could add a particular effect and then add it again and add it again. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click Done. Now, all of those changes I made, the program in its database still has the original file, the original photo, and it has the different versions of the photo in their Photos database. Because if I go in here and I bring up that photo, let me pick one that's a little more dramatic. Okay, let's say Edit, Enhance. Okay, I can say Revert to Original. The original's still there. It's showing me the one that I've modified.
But though, if you want to save both the original, maybe bad photo, and the good one, can you do that?
Yeah, but the trick is you make a copy of the photograph first.
Ah, yes.
So then you've got, rock by the sea, and then you have copy of rock by the sea. And then you take copy rock by the sea, and you do whatever you want to it. And that way you've got it totally separate. So now let's look at the rotate tool. So here I've got a photograph. Okay, I was holding the iPhone this way or that way. I click on Edit, Rotate. Okay, so I click 3 times, rotate it around. If I hold the Option key, I rotate the other direction. Okay, so if you've got a picture like that, and you don't want to have to go, 3 right turns, you just want to do 1 left turn. Actually, it's 3 left turns or 1 right turn. Hold down the Option key. When you do that, that tool will indicate the direction it's going to rotate, and when you click on it, it rotates the photo. And again, if I press the letter M, if I say Revert to Original, it's still there. So let's look at another one. Okay, here we got another one. Okay, rotate. Here's another cutie pie. Rotate. All right, rotate tool, same as you're used to in iPhoto. No big difference. So let's just click Done. Now, let's crop some pictures. Okay, so here's a photograph. This is my daughter out working in her outside office when she was still with the state of North Dakota. What you're not seeing is that off to the right of the photograph, there's a fracking operation with natural gas burn-offs that had exploded and is in flames. And that's why she's in flame retardant here. Okay, now this is a nice photograph, except, I've got this date and time stuff stamped on the photograph in the lower right-hand corner here. So let's crop this photo. So down here, I've got all this date and time stuff. Got a nice little thing to keep the cattle from coming across. She's out in the boonies of North Dakota there. So let's click on crop. Okay, so 2 things happen immediately. They know that when people are cropping photographs, usually they got to straighten the photograph too. So they've got straighten and crop in the same tool. Over here, I've got a little protractor thing going on. So if I want to straighten her up a little bit here, I just put my finger over there, and I can now have her so that she looks like she's standing straight. since I've been to that location, I know that the road actually womps around, but it looks like the horizon's a little bit better. Then the next thing would be, if I'm lazy, I'm just going to click auto, and it's going to do what it thinks it needs to do to the photograph. But typically when you're cropping, you have to do them yourself. So then I'm going to click where it says aspect. Okay, so do I want this to be a square picture? Facebook loves square pictures. Do I want it to be a 16 by 9, which would be letterbox format for displaying on a widescreen type TV or widescreen computer like this MacBook Pro? Do I want it to be an 8 by 10, a 5 by 7, a 4 by 3, a 3 by 5? So you know your 4 by 3 is your typical postcard size. So I'm going to say, hey, let's go with square. Okay, and then I'm going to start dragging this in a little bit here. And I'm going to move the photograph around. I've got to decide how I want to do this. Because I know that if I have the focal point of the photograph at the intersection of one of those lines, it's going to be a better layout of the photograph. And it has to do with the golden rule. Not that one to others, it's the other golden rule. And notice that once I finished all that, it then made the picture appear to be bigger. So now it looks more like my daughter. And I'm seeing I still have a little bit of that date and time down there. So I'm going to do this again. And then I'm going to, again, put her face right on the intersection of one of those. So then I look at it and I go, yeah, that's pretty good. Okay. And now I'm going to click done. All right, so I've got the photograph cropped, but I still have the original. So if for some reason I want to focus on, let me go out here. Say edit. I can always say revert to original, and I'm back there. So then we're back to the original. But if I wanted to focus on, there's some buffalo out here, some bison out there. They're there. They're real small, but they're there. I could zoom in on that instead. Yes, Bill?
Is it better to do your cropping first, then enhance, because then you're not taking all the brightness of the sky and all into consideration when it does the enhancement, or is it, when you enhance it, does it still enhance the whole picture itself?
Okay, the way I do it is, first I rotate, then I crop, then I copy it, and then I start doing things like enhancement or contrast or brightness, those other things.
Because if you crop that down to where there's no sky there and then did the enhancement, I think you'd get a better picture because it isn't taking the bright sky into consideration.
Correct.
For all that backlight.
So here I'm going to do a, let's do
take the sky out.
I'm going to make it so it's just her. I'm going to let it catch up to me. So here, again, I've got her hand at the focal point of those. And then I'm going to say, okay, done. And then I could come back in here and I can say, hey, enhance it. And that's going to enhance it. And when it enhances it, it's only dealing with the area that's in the crop. Okay, very good question, Bill.
Because if you enhance with a lot of bright backlight, it's not going to be as good as it would be if you get rid of that.
If I'm really picky about a photograph, I'm going to be in the adjust tool, not the enhance tool. I'm not going to be using auto stuff.
It's just a tip if you want to get rid of all the bright background,
yeah,
you'll get a better enhancement.
Yeah. So, for example, you've got the ice on the water behind her. Yeah. This was taken in late May last year in North Dakota. They got ice on the water. Okay. All right, so let's look at another one here. Okay, so here we got something else. This would be an example of something you downloaded from the internet. Okay, and you just want to crop it real quick. Okay, you want to take off some stuff. All right, so this case I'm going to just do freeform. We'll come up like that. We'll come over like that. I'll pull down my handle from the other side. Just sort of get it there. and then boom. So a lot of people forget that you can use stuff you find on the internet, bring it in, and crop it down, and then use it for yourself and stuff.
But
Same
that's
way.
a copyright, so we wouldn't be able to put that out on the internet.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole different issue. I'm talking about if it's for your own personal use and you just want, okay.
What's the time doing on
All right,
there?
let's look at straighten. This is another tool that we use all the time. Okay, so here we've got this nice picture. It's taken from the balcony. We click on edit. And I'm going to come in. Okay, rotate isn't going to do it, right? Okay, how do I do straighten? Oh, I go into the crop tool, because you're going to look for straighten. It used to be two separate tools. Now it's one tool. And then I start making it so that horizon matches up with those guidelines. So now we've got it where you don't feel like, you know, you were looking off the edge of the, well, yeah, okay.
So it's not automatic, like the iPad has an automatic straightening.
Well, see, if I click on auto button, it's going to do its best to straighten the picture. So here I've got another one. I'm just going to click auto and just let it do it. Now. So you take the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and you have a real photograph, and then you put it in a frame, and then you... Okay. So one of the things to remember about using the straighten tool is sometimes things aren't supposed to look straight. So, okay. All right. But that auto button is not an auto crop button. It's when you're in the crop tool and you hit auto, it's going to auto straighten it. Let's see if I got one other. Can you share that picture? Okay. So here, if I hit the auto button, it's taking that building that's up in the hills of Bhutan and it's making it look like it's level because that walkway sure as heck isn't. Okay. And notice some of the things that typically would have thrown an auto straighten function off, this banner of like silken colors, that would drive an auto function crazy. Somehow they've managed to overcome that sort of stuff. So that's the straighten tool. Remember, when you're looking to straighten a photograph, think crop. And then, well, not last, but pretty close, red eye. Let's do some red eye here. So here we got little baby red eye. We click at it. Right down here we got red eye. I click on that. I'm going to just hit the auto button. Auto button, it created the two little selections and just did it. Let me undo that. Here we go, watch it. Okay, so let's do these folks. We got a little bit of red eye in this one. So you got the four. Now we got three people. So we did one baby, we did two people, three people. Auto. Now we got a whole group.
Save that, but don't do it. You can't stop that, huh?
Okay.
Go back to the baby and use the slider instead.
Okay, so here's the baby, and you want me to revert. What did you want me to do to the baby?
Slider. Slider.
Ah, the slider is the size of your tool.
Oh, that one is? Okay.
Okay, so I've got to make that tool so it's just, because if I do that, you know, it used to be you had to be right on the pupil. Now they've got it where you just have to be somewhere in the photograph near it.
Okay. I thought that was actually.
Okay, so we've looked at that. Let's do retouch. Okay, well, first thing I want to do with this photograph is I'm going to have it do an enhancement of it. This is taken during dusk. And we've got, actually, let me find something else here.
Can you brighten it
Yeah,
more?
this is not a good retouch photo.
Could you brighten it more than just the enhancement does, Bill?
Oh, sure. If you want to, what you would do is you'd be into this other tool which is called adjust.
Oh, okay. Oh, there we
Okay.
go.
So we would be going into here, I'm going to just say auto the color, and then with lights, auto the lights. This is if you want to change into a black and white photograph. I'm going to say revert to original. And then there's one other tool, because I'm running short on time here. And the other tool, let me see if I can just find something that really does need something fixed here. Yeah, let's do this one. Okay, this is for the retouch tool. That's the one that's got a little Band-Aid icon in it. That's me at age 6, maybe. And that's my father. So what I'm going to do is come up here, and I'm going to say, hey, make that picture big. And let me make my tool small.
Bill, can you adjust the size of that, like right where you're at? Don't go back to the, can you use the scroll wheel to change the size of the circle? Leave it in the picture now. Can you take a scroll wheel and change the size of the picture? No, you don't, never mind, you're not on it, you don't have a mouse.
Right, I don't have a mouse. Okay, let me think. I haven't tried it with photos. With iPhoto, you could use the scroll wheel and it would change the size of that tool.
So that way you know exactly the size, you know, because when you do the slider, the circle's over there by the slider.
So if I do that, I can take that. So it's sort of like what the Politburo used to do, where they took Trotsky out of the pictures. So I just took that phone off the wall. Okay, but again, remember, if you messed up, you can always hit revert to original. Okay, so that's the idea behind a retouch tool.
Is there an undo that you back up?
Yeah. Now let me just make the tool real small, and I'm just going to take out some of that stuff there, just sort of gray it out.
The retouch matches.
Command Z is undo, and it's a multiple undo. If I've done lightening and enhancement and cropping and undoing something else, when I say Command Z, it undoes the last thing I did, and then if I say Command Z again, it undoes the next thing.
So it just matches the background, the retouch, matches the
Correct.
lens.
It takes what's around it and masks it out. So we'll go into, let's just do this instead. The very last tool is filters. So you can say, I don't want any filters, or I want to make it look like it's an Instamatic, or I want it to look like it's transfer color or a process color. Let me say revert to original. I can make it so that it's a tonal gray, revert, black and white noir, fade it, or chroma color, process color. This comes in handy when you have stuff that you've scanned in and there's been a chemical alteration to the photograph over time, and you want to try and undo it digitally. Or you've got stuff that is brand new and you want to make it look like it's old as the hills. So for example, let's just real quick here just say done. We go back up to demo photos. Take this photo of my daughter, I'll say edit, and then I'll say, okay, let's go into filters, and I just added Kodachrome to it. So that's what it would have looked like if we were using a Kodachrome film way back when.
Hey Bill, are you losing data in a JPEG with these enhancements and all, or is it not till you save it?
It's got the original still there.
Right.
So,
but if you wanted to, after you did all this stuff, cropped, filtered, everything, saved it as a new picture, do you?
It's going to be smaller in size.
Yeah, I mean considerably.
Yeah. It all depends on what you're working with, because it'll work with JPEGs, it'll work with TIFFs, it'll work with RAW.
Right.
Okay, so it all depends on what you're working with, because it's going to do different things depending on what the format is.
Because I know if you save a JPEG, you lose data, but with RAW, you don't.
The other thing is, just so you know, you can export stuff from this. So here, I'm saying I want to export this photo. Do I want to export it as a JPEG, a TIFF, or a PNG? Do I want to have location information on it or not? So that would be one way. By saying no, you could strip metadata off of it. And then, where do I want to save it? And tell it to export.
Doesn't have an option to just say save it as whatever frame it is or was?
Well, that's what comes up as the default. And I haven't messed around in the preference settings enough to know. Preferences doesn't look like they have very much in it.
If the photo is RAW, will that come up as an option to save it?
Okay, I didn't quite.
If your original picture that you're working with is a RAW photo,
yeah,
will that be one of the save options? Or just
no, it's going to assume that you want to.
Are my photos also going into iPhoto?
At this point, all of the modifications that you're making, photos and iPhotos start out with using the same stuff.
Okay.
All of the changes you make are now in the Photos stuff, not in the iPhoto stuff.
Unless I do it in iPhoto.
Correct.
Ignore a photo.
Correct. Okay, but they're using the same database.
Okay.
That's what's weird. It makes you,
Yeah.
your head hurt.
Right.
It's using the same database, the same stuff, but it's doing entirely different things to it and keeping different things to it.
So if I want an original photo, I could go back to iPhoto and find it.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Put all the like rotary.
How long is it till iPhoto goes away?
They haven't said, but if past is prologue, I'd say we have about 18 months to 2 years.
You didn't say this all up to the iPhone. These things are not turning on iPhone.
Okay, this is iPhoto, the program, not the pictures. Okay, and Photos allows you to do this thing called iCloud Drive, which I advised you not to turn on yet, where it takes all of your photos, puts them up in the cloud, and if you say, hey, I don't want to do that anymore, then it deletes it from all your devices in the cloud.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's why I don't want you to go there yet.
I know, that was
Is
what
there a-
happened.
Yeah.
Is there a tool for sharpening a picture if you have it slightly out of focus, for example?
No, but you did in iPhoto. And you don't have the vignette and the matte tool. So there's a whole bunch of stuff they don't, it's not in
I'd like to
there.
know their reasoning there, because we want a good photo.
Yeah, and there's one other thing that Photos doesn't have. This is important. iPhoto, you could say, when I edit something, use the toolbox, the editing tools from Photoshop Elements, or from Adobe Lightroom, or from whatever your program is. If you're editing in Photos for OS X, you're using its tools and only its tools. And I think I covered that topic finally.
Thank you. Well done.